Hi guys, welcome to SpeakuP Monday here, Tropical Nomad, 6:30, like every week, episode number 210, I think this one is, if I'm not mistaken, I know. And you can see we have a lot more people this week. We have the Mason family, which I'll introduce very shortly. Now, as you know, we're here in Bali, Indonesia, and each week, I think for the past 8 weeks, I've been talking about this new dimension to tourism, this contribution tourism, or as my good friend Gil says, investment tourism. It's about, how do we embrace new technology, including eco-tourism, including tech tourism, all right? Including these different areas of blockchain, crypto, right? Incubators, accelerators, startups, and so on. Climate tech. We have all of these different options now for Bali coming into its future that we can embrace now to ensure, that Bali remains Bali. It's not changed, that it's the best aspects of Bali are maintained. This week, we're not doing that. We're doing something else. So, as I mentioned before, and if you would have seen the post that I've been doing recently, the Mason family here, and I just want to say welcome to the Mason family. All right? Hi. Welcome. So now the Mason family, Mason, you may know the name here in Bali. We have the Elephant and Safari Park, which is rescue an elephant, right? Yeah. Good. We have the Mason Chocolate Empire, and then Mason Chocolates, and then we also have Mason Adventures, the rafting, and so on. Jungle Buggy, which I found out today is the one that's like a trike, like a quad is very dangerous, but the Jungle Buggy, you're actually enclosed, right? So you have more chance of surviving if you tumble. 100% chance of surviving. So now, on a little bit more serious note, mass tourism was very good for you. Very good. Yeah. Very good for you, right? You're able to create these businesses and able to employ probably over thousands of people over the years that you've been here, help them to feed their families and so on, right? So when COVID-19 came, and obviously we're here in Bali where tourism, someone switched off the tap. It left you in a very weakened state, decimated, especially when it comes to the Elephant and Safari Park. Yeah. So part of what we're going to talk about tonight is about saving the Bali elephants, of which there is a GoFundMe page. I went to the elephant park with my kids, 2 kids and my wife. We thoroughly enjoyed it, run exceptionally well. We'll get to that, but we had a great experience. Thank you. So now, as you know, my name is Robert Ian Bonnick. I'm what we call a tourism architect. So I help tourism boards and tourism-related businesses with unique strategies to succeed, especially those which, as I mentioned before, are involved with contribution tourism, but not leaving behind those who are still based within the hospitality industry, of which, is the lion's share of the industries here in Bali. So let's start this off. We have 4 people here, so bear with me. It will be a bit of a mixed bag. But look, I think a really good way to start might be with you, Nigel, to get a bit of backstory, right? So, when we first met, sitting around your dinner table with all the family, like what strikes me about you is that you are very family focused, which I love, right? Having been a father myself, and I noticed that each person brings a different dimension, a different aspect to your business or businesses, which I also love, and they're empowered to do so. But I think a great place to start, Nigel, would be with you. So maybe if we limit this to 2 or 3 minutes, right? Because I know you can go. Like how did you find your way, into all of this elephant rescue and Mason businesses and Bali in general? So lead us through it.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, up there.
Well, I came to Bali 40 years ago, just over 40 years ago, and Yanie and I met 2 or 3 years after that, and we married in 1985, and we started a little restaurant together, which was called, appropriately, Yanie's Restaurant, and it was very successful. We ran that for 15 years, but in that 15 years, we started off with nothing. I came here with probably a couple of $100 in my pocket, so I didn't come here with this massive amount of money to invest. I just came here to get out of the rat race. I'd been working in Australia and working very hard in the music industry, and just felt, I was over over the top in it. I just wanted to see what else there was in my life. I was in my late 30s, and I felt if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it now. I'd just come out of a marriage which just fizzled out over 15 years or so. And however, my wife and I were still on very good relationship terms, and we've remained friends ever since. So when I came to Bali, I was not coming to get married, but I met Yanie, who was without a doubt the most beautiful girl on the island, and fell in love. And we had to do something to survive, so we started the first business, which was a restaurant. Later on in time, we developed the first rafting company in Indonesia, but that was about 1989, and it came about because we'd bought a little piece of land on the river. We watched people go down the river in tyres and things like the inner tube tyres, and we thought, that could be a good business to do. As it happened, there was another couple of people who were thinking the same thing at the same time. So when we bought land and actually started the operation, we realised that we were side by side with another couple of people who were thinking the same thing. We opened very, very slightly after them, simply because we built a whole lot of infrastructure. My interest in doing things has always been to do it right, to do it the way it needs to be done, not the way it's been done before. And I'd seen rafting companies in Australia and in New Zealand and photos of America, and realised that most of the rafting people were gung-ho. They were young people who wanted to, go rafting and whatever. So they carried their own rafts down, they pumped them up themselves and off down the river, and when they finished, they packed it all up and carried it out. That was impossible on the Iron River. The Iron River is in a huge gorge, and it would be impossible for them to get down to the river, never mind to do all the other things that needed to be done to go rafting. So we developed what I call armchair rafting. We made proper steps down that people could get to the river. We did all the carrying of the rafts down with our staff. We pumped them up. We did everything. Every boat had a guide, a fully trained guide in the back. So it was much, much safer than it normally was. And it was very easy. At the end of we then took them out, put them in a proper restaurant, gave them a good lunch, nice shower rooms, just luxury rafting. And we started something that became a major industry on this island. Over the years, many companies have copied us, of course, and now there's quite a few rafting companies, but we still do it better than everybody else because we take the trouble to slowly get the infrastructure built, think it in advance, make sure it's what people, not just what they want, but what they need to be safe and secure and have a great day out at the same time. So we can take a whole family rafting. Yeah, we're not after gung-ho people. We're after mothers, fathers, grandfathers. Before my mother died, at 81, I took her rafting. So
you guys took me when I was about 2 years old.
I took him rafting when he was 2 years old.
Two years old.
2 years old. Yeah.
And you know what? Just so we're at home, if you're watching via Instagram Live over here, now the best viewing experience will be on YouTube Live. So YouTube Live, in case you can't hear us, we've got one microphone and 4 people. So go to SpeakuP, one word, Monday on YouTube. Go there and you'll get this in the beautiful sound quality and visual quality as well. So back to you, Nigel. So you've kind of gone through, how things started for you. You've been through the rafting. I love the fact that, and this is what I first got from you actually, that you're the sort of person who, instead of doing it repeatedly, you want to get it right the first time.
Absolutely.
Right, and do it right. And you put the infrastructure in and take the sacrifice necessary to make it happen. So then take us from the rafting onto now why elephants?
Well, we had a little bit of a problem in the early 90s after we were too successful. And it sort of turned heads everywhere. Everybody was looking at us and thinking, these guys are making a fortune. And we were doing very, very well, I must admit. But nobody really knows a business unless they're in it. But the vision was that this guy is making a small fortune, and we all want to be in on this. So I raised the ugly eyes of a governor at that time who was in business here, and they came to us and made us an offer we only refused. That was for us to only accept 50 people a day, whereas we were doing 300 or 400. To give them all our publicity. We couldn't use our name anymore. We had to use their name, and we of course said no. So a war of words developed on the media, and finally, in 1994, we were closed down illegally. But it was the government, we couldn't do anything about it. It's history on the island. Everybody knows the story. It's a very famous thing. And it made a lot of people very uncomfortable, and not a lot of people weren't happy with it. But it sort of had to happen to set a precedent for this not to happen again.
That's right.
Yeah. But anyway, the story was 2.5 years later we did open. By that time we'd lost everything. Everything was a derelict. Everything was broken. Our money was all gone. We had to borrow money from the bank to open again. And about the start of 1997, we opened it in late 96. In 97, a guy walked into my office one day, an Indian-looking guy, but he turned out that he was actually Australian. And he said, I said, yeah, what can I do for you? And he said, oh, well, I've got some elephants. And I said, elephants? Well, where have you got them? He said, here in Bali. I didn't hear and know about the elephants were here. This guy had brought down 9 elephants from Sumatra with the idea that he was going to do a business with them. But number one, he didn't know what he was doing. Number two, he didn't have any money. And he really didn't like elephants, which was really quite strange seeing he'd done it. It was his wife who liked the elephants. So, long story short, we went up, had a look at it, and I made him an offer, and we bought the elephants and the license he'd got from Jakarta, and we started the elephants with nothing. It was derelict rice paddy land. There was nothing there, no infrastructure whatsoever. So we just started from scratch. We borrowed again from the bank and started putting together operation. Over a period of time, we then went up to Sumatra to see what was the problem with these elephants, because we heard that these were purely Sumatran elephants, by the way, critically endangered, the only ones in the world. They're only found on the island of Sumatra. So we went up there, Yanie and I, to see what the problem was, and what we found was just absolutely heartbreaking. You know, these elephants were in government camps where they were literally starving and dying. They lived in these camps. They captured them from the wild where they were destroying mostly oil plantations, which they love. They'll eat them. And of course, that's big money. So nobody wanted them there. So they were shooting them and trapping them. And the government stepped in and saved some of these elephants and started putting into these camps. They called them training camps, but they were really just sort of like concentration camps for elephants. And the elephants were living anything between 3 to 5, maybe 7 years maximum in a life of that it should be up to 60 years. So we were heartbroken, and we decided that we would start rescuing more elephants. So we did. We kept rescuing up until we had about 24, 25 elephants we rescued. And then we started breeding them at the park. We've had 6 babies born there. And it just went on from there. We kept reinvesting anything we made in our other businesses and in the park into the park. And now it's classed as the only park in Indonesia that is actually Gold Star rated by animal activists, animal welfare, I mean. And it's turned into a beautiful business. However, of course, COVID came along, and the elephants literally ate us out of a bank account.
So look, let's get a little bit more specific, and then I'll bring everyone else in.
Yeah.
So now, so you mentioned when we had a chat before that to feed an elephant for you is $1,000 a month. Is that right?
About $1,000 a month. Yeah. That's to feed it and maintain it, because it has to be maintained. It has to be washed. It has to be cleaned. It has to be fed. It has to be cleaned up after, and it also has to be exercised. Each elephant every day has to go out and do at least a couple of 3 kilometres walking. That's part of their health program. So all inclusive, we include the wages for that and the money involved in that, and of course the food, which is the largest part. That's about $1,000 a month. So that's about $30,000 a month just to keep the elephants alive.
And then before COVID, how many people were coming through the doors compared to now?
Well, before the COVID, we had probably 200 to 300 a day, maybe more. We used to get a lot of cruise boats in, which would bring 200 or 300 people in one go. So yeah, between 200 and 350 people a day. Now, zero. Yeah. We're open now on the weekends, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we probably get a total of maybe 30 maybe, if we're lucky, 40 people a day. But of course, you've got to understand they're mostly Indonesians, and it's a very, very reduced rate to what we were normally charging back in the good old days. Yeah, so it's become very hard. We're not making money, we're losing money every day, and that's why we started to do the GoFundMe, because we were very concerned that it was going to get to the point where we wouldn't be able to feed the elephants. That hasn't happened as yet. We've managed to keep the whole thing jogging along for the elephant's sake, but it's been very difficult, very.
All right, now we're going to give you a break. That's a great intro, and I'm going to come back to you. And now you want to say something, Shan?
I was going to say that it's not just about the elephants as well. Before COVID hit, we were employing more than 700 local staff. So 90% of those were actually from the immediate area around our park and from our Ubud operations as well. So all those families, all those communities have been impacted incredibly detrimentally because of this. And I know it's a story that a lot of people can share and feel the same way about and have experienced here. But it's really heartbreaking on that front as well.
Very hard, because we've always worked very closely with the communities. My wife is Balinese, of course. My boys were born in Bali. They're Indonesian citizens as well. I'm only the only foreigner in the family.
You and me both. Same with my kids, 3 Indonesian citizens, and I'm the only Pom.
But it's difficult because we really are very, very close to our staff. I mean, we treated them more like family. My son's absolutely spot on. That was one of the most heartbreaking things to do, to have to start limiting the staff and then finally putting off staff and everything else.
We've had some great, amazing people who've been with our families since even before either of us were born as well. So,
what I'd love to go to now, because again, that's brought everybody up to speed, right? So this is what I call like the outside. But what I'm really interested to know is the inside, right? So if you pass that mic to Yanie for a second, it's coming back to you, mate. Don't worry. He's like, get rid of the mic. Get rid of the mic. Give me my voice. Yeah, my voice. Drink some water, mate. So Yanie, now you were born here in Bali.
Correct.
Right. Now, how did all of this play out for you? So let me be specific. So you met this handsome man over here who had this great accent from the UK, probably at that time. And, you fell in love and, you inherited certain things, okay? Family and so on. So when you went through these times, this struggle with the elephant park, when COVID hit, mentally, psychologically, how did you as a family remain up?
Okay. Balinese, we came from very simple life, very simple beginning. Almost kind of, we're very spiritual. Life isn't meant to be easy. Always goes back to that one. Even to the stage when things goes bad with Nigel sometimes, because he's very active, very always doing things. He can't sit still, and almost to the stage like a workaholic. Sorry to say that.
Now keep this close to your mouth. We'd love to hear you.
And then just look. We are not alone. Just look at things around us. If you feel bad, just go to a hospital and see these people. They're just trying to get better. They're dying and all that. We have our health. Come on, what are we worrying? We are okay. The main thing is we as a family together always. So that's already a blessing to me. And then of course, to his, it's very easy for you to say that, It's like, well, that's life. Nothing we can do. The whole world is affecting like this. So I wish, if you want to go to a fight, you have to know your ammunition. But the world, look at Australia, look at Singapore, lockdown and everything. What if you jump up and down and talking about this? It's not going to change anything. So we kind of divert my things to a bit more gardening or going to the temple, or just to keep your mind, healthy.
Love it.
Can I cut in 1 second? Yanie is underestimating herself here. She's actually the financial wizard of the company, and she is the one who sort of does all that part of it. I hate money. I wouldn't even know what we made. I never really think about it. I just spend money. Yanie's screaming and tearing her hair out. We've got to build this, so we've got to make that. You know, she's the one who's had to hold that together through this pandemic, and I think she's had the hardest job of the lot.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, she's the one, and a lot of times she doesn't want to upset me, so she doesn't even tell me. And of course, then when I find out, I go crazy. Why didn't you tell me that? You know. But honestly, she's been an absolute backstay to the family, absolutely. And she underestimates herself. She's been fantastic. And without her, I don't think we'd have held together as a family. Quite honestly, she's been absolutely amazing.
You know, like Yanie, right? Well, I love that, because this is what it's about. It's about talking the truth and acknowledging each other for what contribution it is. Because again, I'm super impressed with your family. Like when I came and met you that day, I can see all of you are very different, and I can see all of you have this common connection, which I don't see that often. And that's what impressed me about you, and that's also why we ended up here, and why I wanted to interview all four of you, not just one. Right? Because I think it's really important people see this, because it's easy to see people, right, who have a business, who maybe be outspoken like you, brother, right? People love you, people hate you, the way it is, right? But I think people need to see and feel what I saw and what I felt, and that's what they're getting now. So this is truth, this is authentic, and this is how it should be. So respect to you, Sister Yanie, Brother Nigel, and while you look at him, I want to go to your boys, right? So fellas, Yanie, is there something else you want to add?
No, I'm just...
It's good.
No, just feeling acknowledged. Thank you.
Of course you're acknowledged.
I know that, but it's just...
I love that. Love that. Thank you, Yanie, for being open with all of us. Love that. Ooh.
I love my family.
I know. I felt it at the table. I feel it now. I love that. Ooh. Yeah.
Cheering up here.
I know, man. I know. Speak Up Monday has become Tear Up Monday, right? Right here, you're seeing it live. Let's go to the boys. So, the two sons, right? And again, there's lots of backstory that I know about you that I'm not going to say right now, but let's say this. So, what kept you guys going during it? It's been 2 years. Your business has been decimated, right? You've got mum and dad who are doing their best, right? I'll get into that backstory later, but how did you two feel about what's going on, and how do you two find it within yourselves to, again, I see you as two very intelligent, smart boys, not boys, men, right? Like, how do you do it?
Well, it wasn't, we never thought that it was about us, like, for a moment. One, we didn't really have a choice. It's about the elephants. If we weren't around to help them out, we can't even imagine what would be the case with them, because we can't send them anywhere back to in Sumatra. You can't exactly give them away. Once we took the responsibility to take them under our wing, that was it. It's a responsibility that we have to hold for life. So apart from that, like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of families, a lot of communities that depend on us as well. And just seeing all this devastation, it's been heartbreaking. So it's not really a question of like what was keeping us going. It's, well, like I said, we didn't have a choice, and we never thought that we actually did have a choice, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
I mean, we always had each other, you know, our family and friends as well. We have a big Bali community of friends here that we spend time with all the time. Our Balinese family is the most amazing family you could ever ask for. They're always so positive. Mom's family, so mom spends a lot of time with them as well. Well, we all do. And I don't know. We always feel strong when we're together. You know, like it just feels like anything is possible when we're all together, us four.
But I feel like a very big part of like what keeps pushing a lot of people forward over here, and what keeps people in this more sort of positive mind state that Bali kind of naturally brings out in a lot of people, is the locals, the culture. Just this island has this natural charm that it's always had, that just draws people in. Like my dad, who had no intention of staying over here before, but instantly fell in love with the place and never wanted to leave. And it's just an amazing, amazing island, and it's just such a shame about what's been happening to it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can agree that we're in one of the best places in the world right now, throughout COVID, for sure. It's still a blessed place to be.
And then now I know that I remember from our conversation that so you were brought up in Australia at the boarding schools. Have I got it right?
We're born here. We
born here.
Yeah, we lived in Australia for boarding school for a bit, for about 10 years or so, and then came back over here.
Yeah, I did high school and uni over there.
High school uni. Okay, cool. And one thing, maybe we give the microphone back to each parent. One thing which, again, as a family, right, I fully appreciate and respect this, but that time at the table, Nigel, we spoke about, how you parent at that time your children. They're not children anymore, and you mentioned that you didn't want to expose them.
I didn't want to burden them. It was a matter, I really didn't want to burden them with the problems that we had over the years, because we did have some pretty bad problems that they never knew about, and we always kept it from them because we thought, look, they're having their childhood. Their childhood is very precious. I as a kid, my father was murdered when I was 8 years old, so my childhood was just shattered completely, as was my family, and I ended up immigrating to Australia when I was 15 years old by myself because there was nothing left for me in England. And I felt, well, must be something in Australia, and went to Australia, and then went to Bali with that same sort of feeling, discovery, and to enjoy life. And I didn't want my sons to know about lockdowns and blacklistings and all these things that went on with Yanie and I. I mean, I was blacklisted from Indonesia 2.5 weeks after Yanie and I married, and had to come in and out of this island in disguise, change my passport, all sorts of things. For no reason. I'd done absolutely nothing wrong, but in those days, the immigration department had a great business going where they made money out of people by blacklisting them and then paying money to get off that blacklist. We didn't have any money, so we couldn't do that. So those are the sort of things that had taken place. The boys never knew about it, and I waited till they'd finished their education. At 14, they went to Australia. They went to a very good boarding school, Geelong Grammar, down in Melbourne, and they learned how to be kids, how to enjoy their life as teenagers and everything else. When they finally came back to Bali, then I thought that was the time to sit down and fill them in on all that had taken place over the years. So we started off lightly, just over a period of days and weeks and that, just telling them the history of what had gone on in Bali. And I think it was important to tell them that because they needed to know that life wasn't a little breeze that you sailed along and everything was okay. That there were problems and hiccups in life, and you were going to have to face those problems when they came. If you didn't know they existed, how the hell could you face them? So it was important to teach them that, and I think we did it the right way, because they then suddenly realised that, hey, what we thought was also easy actually wasn't. It was actually quite difficult.
Yeah, but also all the things that you went through just made us feel like, with COVID and everything, it's happening with everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get through everything because you guys have just been so strong throughout it all.
Yeah, that's why we're a strong family, because we've always fought as one. The boys are now in their 30s, and they don't look it. They look like they're still in their 20s, but they're actually well in their 30s now. And I think they understand Bali very well. They understand their culture. They're both Hindu. I'm Hindu too. I changed my religion when I married Yanie. And we, as a family, we're very, very tight. As a Hindu family, as a sort of a semi-Australian family, and as a family of the island, we're I feel myself that I'm Balinese the same as everybody else, because I've been here such a long time, and I know the culture. I understand it. I've got a huge library of Balinese and Indonesian historical documents which I've read and learned. So I understand Bali probably as well as the Balinese do, probably more so than many Balinese do.
You've also been a huge advocate for the island. Whenever the Bali bombs hit, whenever Bali's had volcanoes erupting, any detrimental news, the Australian media first thing they would do a lot of the time would call up this guy and ask for his take on it. And
You're the first to defend.
yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, he would be the first person to stand up for this island.
Yeah,
and
and
a lot of
although-
people would have mixed feelings about certain things.
Yeah, I mean, although sometimes I'm the biggest critic of Bali, you know, I've just recently sent a letter to the governor telling him what I thought of his tactics and that he should change them and etc. So I stick my neck out a lot of times and criticise Bali itself because I realise that, you know, they don't quite understand how the world works, and they're thinking of it on a Balinese level, which is very leaning towards, you know, the head trip, the religion, the traditions and all that. Whereas sometimes they need a little bit of reality of what the world's like, because after all, we're a tourism destination, and you need to know who you're dealing with. You need to know what the rest of the world expects.
You know, the question is coming up for me now, and I want to go to Yanie, not yet, because mum's always right, as far as I'm concerned. So mum's always right. You know it's true. Boys know, you know, I know, Gil knows, Zach knows.
We just don't admit it.
I know, but we know it's the truth. So look, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, Nigel, right? So here's a question for you. And so what I notice is, so I get, you know, a family dynamic. I think we all do. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful, right? So I get as well, which I didn't know before, at the age of 8, your dad was killed, right? I obviously come, I don't know if you know, but I come from a different background, right? Growing up in children's homes for 18 years in London.
Same city.
Same city in London. So you were born northwest, northeast London. Yeah. So we're kind of neighbours, right? Neighbours, mate, neighbours. So, but here's the thing, right? What is it, do you think, within you? Because what I feel within you is that there's a part of you that will never give up. It's almost like, you know, like the Dunkirk spirit, right? Yeah. It's like there's this part of Nigel that you can pull this, you can take that, you can pull him away from this, you can strip him of that, you can take that away, but he'll still come back.
Sure, well...
What is it? Where does that come from?
Well, 2 of my uncles were at Dunkirk, and one was my mother's younger brother, who was 17, who went down on one of the boats off the beach of Dunkirk. So Dunkirk I know well. My father was an army officer in the war, and he was with Lord Mountbatten in India. So I had a very family background with the army, with the forces and that. And we were a very close family. But when my father was murdered, it just, you know, it was like somebody threw a hand grenade into the family and just shattered it. So it made me very strong, and luckily not bitter. I wasn't bitter. I was just maybe disappointed, you know, that I wasn't going to have the life I thought I was going to have. So I was on my own, in other words, and I felt then that it was a matter of keeping very strong and making sure my family was strong too. Sorry, I get a bit emotional when I talk about my father.
Don't ever be sorry for being emotional, man. It's strength. It's power.
Yeah. But so family is number one. Yeah, really number one.
100%.
So, you know, we'll always get through it. Always. Yeah.
Ooh. Man, you know, if you're watching this at home, right, while everyone else compose themselves here. So SpeakuP Monday has been going for 3 years, over 200 plus episodes. No SpeakuP is the same as the other. And we don't rehearse any of this. Like the Dunkirk thing I had no idea about, for example. I know, but it always happens, right? Because at the end of the day, right, it's about the energy that's present right here, right now, and we go with that. And whatever comes through is supposed to. So we let it roll, we let it ride, and it always comes the way it's supposed to. And I appreciate everyone here for being part of that and not holding it back, right? Because this is what it's about. It's about inspiration. And inspiration comes, people inspire people. Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity and diversity. Look at the unity and diversity in these guys sitting up here. You know, like this is what it's about, and I love that. So Yanie, like, what comes up for you when you see this man, what he just had to say, when you look at your family going through all of this? Like, I get you're a very spiritual woman, and after this we'll get onto the elephants, but I see you're a very spiritual woman. Like, what comes up for you right here, right now, when you see your boys as they are right now?
how will I say it?
However you'd like, darling.
It's just, but I always think I'm blessed, to have. Here in the world, this is my part. It's like also having these two handsome boys. I met my husband, and also my part is having companies, employing people. It's just like I'm blessed. I never dream of having any of these. To me, it's just like, why sometimes I think of myself, why I'm here? Why I'm doing this? Why is that? Or maybe I deserve this, I don't know. Try to do my best to live in this world. So it works out this way. So I still feel very grateful.
Yanie works very closely with the Hindu community. She's part of the very in the community. She knows everybody, and everybody knows her. She's very well known on this island as an amazing businesswoman and an amazing person.
Yep, everyone loves
I don't think I've ever heard anybody criticise my wife in all the years. We've been together 37, 38 years now, and she's probably the most loved person on the island, and not just by us. So yeah, she's a very special person, and I think, as I said before, she's the backstay of the family, and always will be. And it's, going to be able to look after the family long after I'm gone, which I'm really happy to know. It makes me feel good. Yeah.
Always to try to do my best, that's all.
Yeah.
Like what's coming up now. So people here, I think, have got a very good idea about who you are as people, right? Which is very important. So let's move now to, so we're talking about the elephants now. We've gotten to the point where you've explained how we arrived, or how you arrived at this point. And there's obviously a GoFundMe there, which is very important. And I think you've raised, is it 50,000?
Around about 50,000, yes. Which is look, it's well below the target we were hoping for, but it's still going along, and we're hoping more people will sort of jump on board. And we had to create a foundation for this. We couldn't just do it with our business, because that would not be the right way to do it. So we created a special foundation, non-profit foundation, which is not run by us, of course. It has its own bank account, and it has to account. So every dollar, every rupiah that goes into that account has to be accounted for, and it can only go towards the elephant. It can't go into the elephant business. It can only go into looking after the elephants. So the more we raise there, the more secure our elephants will be. So it doesn't actually help us personally, other than the fact that we don't have to find that money, which we've had to do for the last 2 years, and it's completely bankrupt us. Well, our bank accounts are empty, and our bill to the bank has grown tremendously. So this is really because we were at a point of saying, look, whatever comes, we're a Balinese family, we'll survive, we'll always be able to get a nasi campur from the family, even if we come down to that, which we're not at, I'm not saying that, but even if it came to that. But the elephants were different. We only had one chance with the elephants. If we had elephants die, that was irreversible and unforgivable. Because we, as my son said, we took on that responsibility when we first brought those elephants down from Sumatra and rescued them. So it's a big responsibility for us. And as a family, we've always taken that very, very seriously. And where do you go from there? If the elephants start dying, I mean, not only would it devastate us and that, but we'd never forgive ourselves for it. Yeah, it would be terrible.
They're a critically endangered species as well. I mean, as are a lot of other things over in Sumatra because of the situation over there. There's estimated to be less than 750 left out in the wild now as well. So it really is an irreplaceable herd that we have here.
4 out of the top 10 most critically endangered species all come from Sumatra. So that's the reason why we have the elephants in the first place as well. It's because their home is just decimated. They don't really have a place to go. Maybe
I should explain a little bit about that. People may not understand the difference between Sumatran elephants and any other elephant. But in the world, there were 4 different species of elephants: 2 African elephants and 2 Asian elephants. But in actual fact, there's 3 Asian elephants. So there's a 5th one. The Sumatran elephant is only found on the island of Sumatra. It is unique. It's a much smaller elephant than the other elephants, and consequently is the most critically endangered elephant, the most critically endangered elephant on the planet. So once that species is gone, it's gone forever. And we didn't want to be part of that. And Sumatra's got massive problems. Its deforestation is unbelievable. It's worse than the Amazon, believe it or not, much worse.
Yeah, poaching still happens as well.
Poaching still happens, and elephants. When people have elephants in the area, they do one of 3 things. They either shoot them if they've got a gun. Lucky there aren't too many guns in Indonesia, but the army has guns, so it's always easy to get a gun. Or they dig 3-metre deep pits, which the elephants fall into and smashes their legs, and they die an agonising death in the bottom of a pit. Or the other way is they get a pineapple and they cut a little circle into it, a little plug, pull it out, pour strychnine into it, plug it back up again, and they just drop these along the trails where the elephants come. So the elephants eat these pineapples because it's a very strong smell of pineapple. They don't notice the strychnine, and 20 minutes later they're dying in agony. It's pretty gruesome. Yeah. So these are a beautiful elephant that we can't see gone. On that island, we've also got the orangutans, which are critically endangered. Tigers, I think there are only less than 300 tigers now left in the wild there, and they're unique to that island as well. You've got the rhino, which is down to about 30 or 40 in the wild, and of course you've got other things like the gibbons and things like that, which are all endangered too. So it's a heartbreaking story. Sumatra itself, honestly, it's criminal what's happened there. It's really disastrous, and people just don't know about it. Sumatra, where's Sumatra? If you ask anybody where Bali is, they'll say, oh yeah, over there somewhere.
I know a lot of people that think Bali is a country, so.
They think we're a country in Bali, not a part of Indonesia. But Sumatra is the top end of Indonesia, and it's very very different to the rest of the country. So people don't know what's going on.
Excuse me. I almost got what you did. So by the way, people here, we're gonna. In about 5-10 minutes, we're going to put the microphone. If you have questions, just raise your hand, about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and we'll come around and you can ask your question. So the future, right? So let's say, okay, so I'm watching now. I understand the problem. I understand a little bit more about Sumatra, which I personally did not know. So thank you for that. And I get the reason why the elephants are here. I get the reason why you set up a rescue park. Okay, for elephants as opposed to a reserve or a sanctuary. It's a rescue park. Okay, got that. Got that you've got a GoFundMe page. Got that. I've got that Bali's been closed effectively for 2 years, and I understand that the savings that you had for that have gone. Okay, got it. So what is the future then? Right? For if someone would ask you, okay, I'll give you some money for the GoFundMe, I'll put that money in. But then, as you mentioned, it's $30K a month for the elephants. But that's not including the other costs that you have in running any business.
Yeah, but that's nothing to do with business.
Of course, that's separate. Yeah, as we said, just to be very specific, the GoFundMe campaign can only be used for the elephants, right?
Yes.
Not for the business. Got it. So, what is the future then for the elephant park?
I think I can answer that fairly simply. The future of the elephant park is tourism. We need tourism to come back again. That is the future. Without tourism, the elephant park will eventually die along with the elephants. There's no other way for it. It was never a huge money-making concern anyway. It covered its costs. It made a very small profit. But a lot of times we had, like when the Bali bomb went off, we had to inject money into it from our own private accounts or from our other businesses and that. So it's always been a matter of a labour of love as far as we're concerned. We love the elephants, we keep it going. Our mission for the future is to try and keep breeding elephants, as we've done. We went six babies. Now that's very difficult to do with elephants, especially in captivity.
Yeah, completely naturally as well.
Most places, like Melbourne, I just heard that Melbourne has got 2 elephants pregnant in Melbourne, but it's all artificial insemination, and they've got a lot of people there and a lot of money from the government and a lot of funding to do that. We can't do that but we haven't had to. We've had happy elephants, and happy elephants breed, as happy people do, you know. And so that was what we were looking forward to the future, to be able to breed more and more elephants. I mean, for the first 10 years of the park, which is now in its 25th year, we had no elephants breeding. They had to settle in. They had to feel that this was home, that the park was their home, and that they were comfortable, and that the herd mentality had to knit together, because these elephants didn't come all from the same place. They came from all over Sumatra, scattered here and there. So it wasn't that we brought a whole family of elephants down. We didn't. We brought a whole load of orphans down and then made them into a family. And that was important to get them to breed. Yeah. So even this 2 years been closed, we've noticed a very, very big change in the mentality of the elephants. They're beginning to look and feel a little bit as depressed as we are, and it is noticeable. Their demeanour has changed very slightly, but it has changed. There's no doubt about it. They miss having people. They love people. Elephants love interacting with people. Once you take the people away, I don't think they can quite understand what's going on. Where'd all the people go? You know? It's a bit strange, yeah.
As my dad said earlier, elephants have to be incredibly comfortable if they can breed naturally. So with all the work that we've done over the years since 1997, we take that as a really good sign that we're going in the right direction. But I think, just to talk a bit further down the line towards the future, coming back to the whole situation in Sumatra, if that was going to take a turn for the better sometime, we don't know when or if that's even possible, we would be looking towards gradually reintroducing parts of the herd back into those parts.
Yeah.
And look, take the microphone out of your hand, mate. I think there's glue on the microphone, mate. It gets stuck in there. But, mate, I understand, man, that you've built this, you know. I mean, which actually is a good kind of segue, right? So, Nigel, you're a extremely capable man, right?
I like to think so.
Fellow Londoner, come on, mate, you're all right, mate, you're all right. So, you know, like, you got two incredible boys here. I keep calling them boys, but they're men, for goodness sake. You know, like, could you foresee a day where they are running the elephant park without you?
Of course they can. They know the business as well as I do now, and they were born with the elephants. Literally, they're almost bred to the elephant park. They know every elephant. They know how it runs. They love it as much as I do. They're as dedicated as I am. Sure, they'll take over the reins. I mean, they really already are taking over the reins, because they understand what it's about. You only have to listen to them talk. I mean, they're as committed as Yanie and I are, absolutely. So
I see that.
The park's in good hands. Once I drop dead, no problem about that at all. They'll do a great job. If we can get through this time, the rest will be easy, I hope.
You know, now this question will go in this order. So you, Brother Shan, Jian, and you, my darling, and then you, brother. So is there anything that you would have done differently? Now, let me just phrase this question. Absolutely, right? We can always say, hey, all these things that have happened have made me the person I am today, wouldn't change a thing. I'm not after that. What I'm after is an honest, like, yeah, I get that and I acknowledge that, but if this happened again, I would have done that. The reason why I say it is because people are watching now from this camera. People are watching and probably thinking, okay, I get the story, but like, what's in it for me, right? Human beings are kind of selfish, most people. What's in it for me? I'm watching this for something. I get the story, I get the elephants, I get your motivation, I get your family connectedness, which is beautiful to watch, and I love that. But you know, like, what's in it for me? So this question is designed in a way to open you up in a way that people can actually take something away from it and say, yeah, you know, that applies to me, actually.
So are you asking it from like a personal level or something?
Personal. If you haven't got the answer, switch to your brother. We'll come back to you.
I think just I wish we were able to kind of recognize and see the red flags earlier for what they were. Because I mean, here in Bali, it's a very sort of optimistic. Like I said earlier, it's a very optimistic sort of mentality that a lot of people here have, especially the locals. So for a lot of the people, they had no idea this was going to drag on for this long, and I feel like a big part of the negative impact was them being told that this was going to be over in another couple of weeks, another couple of months, and so consequently they couldn't prepare accordingly with that. So we were watching the news, we could see what was going on. At so many stages, you could say, hey, like this is messed up. This is going to go on for much longer. This is going to be much more detrimental than we're all being led on to believe. So I think just taking that more to heart and just going ahead with preparing for the worst case scenario and looking at it in a much more long-term scenario would have been the better way to go about it.
Red flags. What did you mean when you said red flags? There were red flags.
I don't know, this whole COVID thing, man. It's got too many inconsistent things happening about it. Let's just say that.
Got it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Over to you, Jian. So the question is, what you can pass it on now to Yanie. So what would or could you have done differently? And let's go personal. I think it's a lot more revealing and insightful.
I guess on a personal level, I wouldn't have sat on my laurels as much at the start of COVID, and just try to ride it out. I would have tried to improve and better myself in more ways than I really didn't do so much during this period.
Give me an example. So what kind of ways would you have liked to improve, to amend, to upgrade, upskill?
So many things, honestly. I can't. I don't know. I feel very personal about these.
Well, whatever you feel you can let us know. Don't give us all of it. Just a little splinter.
Just stop being such a lazy bum, I guess, when it comes to this really serious issue. Like I needed to step it up a lot sooner for the elephants, and I didn't. And it's weighing heavy on me more than just COVID. Now I'm kind of like just looking at myself and finally realizing that time is catching up. I'm 33 now, and there's a lot of shit that I need to do, and my parents getting older. My dad's almost 80 years old, and 80 years old, and he doesn't look it at all. But just it's really time to step it up, not just for the elephants, but for like the family. Like earlier, I was saying like we're strong together, but we don't know how long we have together, honestly, and I haven't made the most of it, I think.
My brother, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate and respect that. What we all do. Thank you. Yeah. So Yanie, same question to you, but what I'm going to ask you to do though is to point that microphone here, right? Because your microphone control is kind of all over the place here, Yanie. Rein it in, girl. Rein it in. Bring it to your mouth. Over to you, darling.
Oh my God. Okay. If I knew it's going to be dragging this long, 2 years. This is almost in our 3rd year. Oh my God. I would have reserved for 5 years at least, Because in business, we see the growth of the business going well, 15% up from previous years. Oh, that's good. Of course, you talk to the bank, oh, your loan's getting less. You should, maybe other opportunity come up. There's some fun for you to use. So like we're thinking, oh yes. But now, no way. Got to be at least 5 years reserve. Let's learn the lesson for everyone here. Things like this can happen again, I'm sure. So that's what I think.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Look, I have a little bit of a different view of this. I actually blame myself a lot for what happened because when we were having such a good run, the years were being very good, the business was running very, very well. I was all for reinvesting, improvement, do better, this, that, and everything. I think I got a bit carried away and I spent more money in particularly last year or two before the COVID, than I should have. Had I not wanted to prove so much, we built a brand new theatre at the park, we built new rooms, we expanded the land to get the certification, the Gold Star certification we needed. And at our other businesses, we went ahead and built a chocolate factory with, a few $1 million of our own money went into that, and it all looked like nothing could go wrong. but it certainly was very stupid. I feel, quite responsible for allowing ourselves to bring our bank balance down to what it was. Honestly thinking that it was going to come back so quickly. We had the best January and the start of COVID that we'd ever had before in all our years. We'd never had anything like that. It was just mind-boggling. Everything was going well. We'd had the Kardashians visit the park, and our numbers had leapt up with the Americans, and we had Jean-Claude Van Damme back for the third time, and people like this were coming to us, and it was lifting our figures up. We were getting more and more people, and it was just looking better and better. So I thought, well, we've got to make it better. We can't just sit on this. We need a gallery. We need the museum upgraded. We need to put better, put more Wi-Fi through the park, and all these things. You're thinking ahead. As a business person, I think that's what we all do. We're always thinking, what's the next step we have to do? Nobody in their wildest dreams would have known this was going to happen. Yeah. I mean, we had a little taste of it when the bomb went off back in 2002. Bali went empty for a few months. In fact, for a couple of years, we were really down. But we got through it, and it was only Bali. This time, it wasn't just Bali. It was the whole world. So we feel helpless, and I feel totally helpless. I feel that I've led us down a very dark path with our company by not being able to sort of see a little bit into the future. If I had it all over again, no way I would have invested so much money so quickly, thinking that it was all going to come back quickly. That was a mistake, I think, and I feel, very guilty for doing that, because I think if we hadn't spent all that money, if we'd gone a little bit slower, a little bit more cautiously, we'd have got through this far better than we did. So that's my regret.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Now, we have some questions, I believe. So, Brother G, so what we do, Brother Guzman, if you could take that mic and hand it over, and we'll take some questions. Before you speak, Brother G, I just want to say to each and every one of you, right? Nigel, Yanie, Jian, Shan, big appreciation, because for a lot of you, it's probably one of your first times that you've done anything like this. It's a deep dive Q&A, right? It's open format. There's nothing to prepare, right? You don't know what questions coming next, and then suddenly it's like a question that's quite personal comes up. There's a microphone in your face, and you're going like, well, I don't want to say that. I definitely can't say that, and yet you did. So, look, it's a humbling experience, and each week I don't take it for granted. I really don't. I really do appreciate thoroughly people that are prepared to step up and prepared to be vulnerable and to speak their truth.
And you're really good at it. Nice reference.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you.
You're the man.
Over to our brother over here.
First of all, thank you so much for the family, for what you guys have been doing for Bali, and for introducing your story a little bit more deeper today. Really appreciate it. I love how the family came together and crying and emotion. That really shows us a lot more than the business side and the initiative, what you've done, but it shows us who you are. Except for helping the elephants by donating money, and people could just send money through the GoFundMe fund, how else, so what sort of other relationships are you guys currently looking for? Anyone that's watching out in the world, anyone that potentially wants to help, what other resources out there can someone contribute or help, or send you a message tomorrow saying, hey, can I help this way? People who are listening just like myself and our friends, how can we help?
Well, there's probably many ways that I don't even know, but the first thing I can think of is our new chocolate factory, which is only less than 5 years old, that we finished the large factory right in the middle of 2020 because we'd ordered massive equipment. It was on its way from Italy, and we were committed, money had been spent, and we couldn't suddenly turn back the clock and not go ahead. So because of that, we haven't been able to really launch our chocolate factory the way we wanted. The reason we have got two factories, the first little small one that we made, and then the new bigger one that we made. We've not been able to get to the world, let's put it that way, because we're locked into Bali. We need to look at export. We've done all our export licenses and things like that through this last 2 years to make sure we were in that position. And quite honestly, if we could gain more business for our chocolate factory, particularly export or that would help a hell of a lot in the overall picture. Let's put it that way. The elephants would be helped, we'd be helped as a family, and the rest of the business would be helped. So I think, and it's probably the only area that isn't involved so much in tourism. Although Indonesians are great chocolate makers, we are making what we call craft chocolate, which is quite different. If you don't know the difference, there's industrial chocolate and then there's craft chocolate. Craft chocolate is much more complicated. For instance, an industrial chocolate bar, your Snickers bar or your Kit Kat or whatever, it's made in one day. The beans come in one end, it goes through a massive production line. The other end, you've got your Kit Kat bar ready to sell straight away. With craft chocolate, it's very, very different. We actually have to go to the growers, work with the growers in all the different islands, because Indonesia has many chocolate growing areas on each island, including Bali, of course. And then we build relationships with them to buy their beans, but also to help them how to grow better beans. And then they have to be fermented, which isn't done with normal chocolate. Normally, chocolate beans are dried in the sun and sent straight to the factory. Ours aren't. They have to be fermented. We have to teach them how to do that and how to create this new craft chocolate. Craft chocolate is growing enormously throughout the world because it's the newest thing. People now want better quality chocolate, much the same as they wanted better quality coffee a few years ago, and coffee industry improved itself. Now you go in, you used to go in and buy a Nescafe. Now you buy God knows how many different coffees and beans and mixes and God knows what. It's become a whole art form. Chocolate is about to do the same with craft chocolate. And that's why we got involved with craft chocolate, because we wanted to be part of something different, something new, something really high quality, because we believed that Bali is selling itself short. It's always just sold the beans like all the other islands in Indonesia and allowed other people, particularly in Europe, to Belgium and Switzerland, to use their beans to make chocolate to sell and make the big profit. The big profit has been made by everybody but the Indonesians. So we wanted to be part of that change, to teach Indonesians that, hey, you build factories with craft chocolate, you can improve it dramatically, and it'll be a whole new industry that isn't around. Europe now understands craft chocolate. America is beginning to understand, and it will grow and grow. In fact, the fact is now that craft chocolate industry is on the uprise, and the industrial chocolate industry is on the downturn. So it's a good time for us to come into, and we researched it quite well before we went in and decided that. So the fact that we landed right in the middle of COVID with our first our factory finished, I think it was finished in July, August of last year. We had no market to go to. We couldn't get out there. All the chocolate shows, there are special craft chocolate shows around the world, so they all stopped. Everything stopped. It's now just about to start again. So if we could get help somewhere, it would be, to establish some market for us overseas. That would be fantastic, to give us a chance to at least, get that investment working. Because at the moment it's sort of tiddling along, crawling on its knees where it should be running by now. Yeah.
And look, Shan has something to add there. So, just before you add that, Shan, I just want to say, mate, I'm continually reminded of the fact that you do it right the first time. From Italy, come on, it's like, I got a machine here. You get it from Italy, anyway. Shan, over to you, mate.
Just coming back to the elephants again, for the very first time ever, we've had to resort to going for a GoFundMe campaigning for direct donations as well at SaveBaliElephants.org. But along the last few months, we've met some amazing people who've been incredibly generous. They've been very, very warm and welcoming and wanting to help us out. So we just wanted to reach out to them and thank them for just wanting to be a part of our journey and for helping us through this incredibly difficult time. That includes working with some great minds who are involved with the crypto space, NFTs, and it's an amazing, amazing space that I think is still in its infancy. So it's something that we would love to be a bigger part of. It's something we would love our elephants to be a part of, because I've looked it up myself, especially when it comes to NFTs. There's not exactly much out there in terms of work and what do you call it, compilations that people have been doing around the world with elephants. So we'd be incredibly excited to get something going with that. And going down towards the future, I think it's going to be a massive part of the entire planet. So if we could really be involved with, making something special and unique, that would be amazing too. If it all goes towards helping the elephants, that's the cherry on top. So.
And as Gil will add in a minute, so here we're going to call them out: Hector, Bowen, and Unit, Michael. I think you guys should have a chat to these guys. One is, is it coming? Good. All right, there's one out of two. So these are two projects which are born here in Bali. Well, the founders are here in Bali. I know them both very well, and they've both been on the show actually. Bowman's been on twice, and Michael's been on once. And with Hector, it's about how do you bridge, the blockchain to the real world. Right, and that's their thing. And with Unit, it's about how do we tokenize the world. So I think there's two here, people who you can meet up front, right, as opposed to maybe online. These guys are here. So yeah, I'm sure we can connect you with those. Yeah. And then Gil was about to say something else, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, I personally understand that absolutely zero. My boys, luckily, involved in that and understand it more. So you need to talk to them, not to me. I'm a complete dumbass when it comes to that.
Oh man! So look, are there any other questions? Zach, I think you had a question as well. So we'll go to Zach and then Brother Guido afterwards.
Yeah. So I really appreciate the story that you guys have shared and the commitment and conviction that you've demonstrated with the elephants, and you've taken on so much responsibility, so much to where it's even becoming a burden. And I hear that you want even more elephants to be born in the space, and they can live for 60 years. That's even 70 years, and that's a really big and long-standing responsibility. I heard just briefly that there might be a plan for returning some of these elephants to somewhere, and I'm curious to hear more about that plan and how that could also be part of your story, potentially, to maybe bring in other people who would want to support that cause.
I'll hand this over to the boys in a second, but the unfortunate thing at the moment is that Sumatra is in such a mess that nothing is really happening there yet. Until people can get into the island and start reversing the massive destruction of it that's happening, and get the government to understand that this is to their advantage to save this island from total annihilation as far as a live living organism. It's hard to know. I mean, you look over the island now and there's just kilometres and kilometres and kilometres of palm plantations and acacia tree, which is grown, as you probably know, for its wood and the paper industry and that, and then you've got other people. The loggers are going in there. Illegal loggers are out of control. Many of those illegal loggers are actually legal businessmen who either own, they're generals in the army, or they're politicians, or they're even business people from other countries, such as Malaysia. There are a lot of Malaysian businessmen who in the oil plantation business in Sumatra, as they are in there. So it's a really difficult situation until something is done and forests are actually reserved for wildlife. It's just, it's like a football ground of forest is going every second. It's like click, 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 one more football ground of forest gone. So we would not be able to do anything unless there was a program there to actually reserve forests and let the elephants into it. Then, of course, we would be very happy. But to send our elephants there in these times would be just a death.
What if there was another place?
Well, the only other places in Indonesia are at this time is Kalimantan. And Kalimantan has its own story going on there as well. That's being devastated faster and faster. And you've probably heard that Indonesia intends to move its capital city there, which would speed up the destruction of that island enormously too. So yes, if there were other places, there is no other island in Indonesia anywhere, I can assure you, where elephants could survive. Elephants are very destructive. They need a lot of land. They need to push over trees and smash smash down branches, and they'll put their shoulder up against a coconut tree and just worry it like that until it falls down, so they can just eat the two or three edible leaves on the top. That's what they do. I mean, that's how they live. So to have a place where elephants can actually survive on a permanent thing needs a very sustainable bit of forest. So as yet that hasn't happened. Yeah.
How much do they need?
How much is needed?
Yeah.
Well, look, there is a large forest up in Sumatra. It's called Teso Losso or something. Yeah. It was designated, supposedly by the government, as a natural reserve to be touched. But the very first thing that happened after that was done was they put a road right through the very middle of it, right through the centre of it. And of course this gave access to all the logging people. So they've just gone in and they're just eating into the park. So that big forest is already under threat from the logging industry, who are just picking it off bit by bit, because there's no real control there. There's you just pay off the police and they look the other way, and that unfortunately is what happens in a lot of these sort of outward places in Indonesia. Sumatra's a huge island. It's massive. To police it would need, a probably 2,000 or 3,000 strong army to just look after that area. It's a very difficult thing to do. And I'm not saying the government don't have the will. What I'm saying is that money talks.
Sean?
Pretty much said it all, but something that we've always wanted to do, my brother and I, is we do want to go to Sumatra again, because our parents went there about 15 years ago and investigated the situation, and we want to see for our own eyes and get our own first-person perspective over there, maybe stay like a month or so, and just see what we can do, Like, a lot of it is hearsay, we're hearing things, but we actually haven't been touched down on the ground in Sumatra. So that's something we're definitely going to do in the future as soon as we get out of this mess.
I mean, the one thing about Indonesia is they like to say a lot of things, but deep down, something else is happening. So until you're there, you see it for your own eyes and have a first-hand experience with it. You don't know what the real situation is. It could be much worse than what it is. It could be whatever it is they're reporting to us, but honestly, we just don't know. So, yeah, We'll see how that goes.
Zach, any supplementary or follow-up question before we go behind?
I mean, I could probably carry on a conversation for quite some time with you guys on this. I've got a lot of questions about it.
Well, look, we can talk privately, but I'll give you the number. But by all means, contact me privately. I'll talk to you for hours. You can come over and spend half a day with us. Be like, come up to the park.
I'll connect you, mate.
Yeah, that'd be great. I do have one question that maybe it's an easy one, maybe it's a tough one, but there's a bit of controversy over riding elephants.
Yes, we know.
And I understand. I mean, you guys got photos of people riding them as part of the attraction.
Yes.
And so I'd just like you to speak on that for a minute.
Would you like me to explain that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there is a lot of emotion when it comes to elephants, of course, as there is with dolphins and whales and orangutans and things like that. People get emotional, particularly emotional about some animals, and elephants are one of them. What has happened over the years that a belief has grown that elephants suffer two ways. Number one, they're treated cruelly when they're trained, which is true in certain parts of the world, particularly Thailand and India. But we don't do that here. We've developed a very easy, kind way of training elephants that doesn't distress them, hurt them, or give them any pain or anything else. They learn much the same as you teach your family dog. Yeah, and it's very gentle, and the elephants actually enjoy it, as does a dog when you teach it. It loves to learn to throw sticks and chase it and that. So it's not that, number one, that fallacy is not true in the case of our park in Bali. The second one is about riding, of course, which is the big controversial one. Everybody thinks, oh, as soon as someone's an elephant, that elephant is in pain. It's been either trained cruelly to accept that, or both, that it is actually hurting it. To put a horse saddle on a horse and a rider, that weighs about almost 20% of the horse's body weight. An elephant, a seat and a couple of riders on it, only weighs 7%. So it's a far lesser amount, plus the fact that an elephant's back is built like a bridge, so it doesn't hurt it. Underneath that seat, which I might add is usually light teak weight, doesn't have any nails or anything like that, is a padding that thick. It's about 30 centimetres thick, and I can actually show you. So it doesn't hurt the elephant at all, and the elephant does not have any stress from it whatsoever. In actual fact, elephants like to ride. They like people riding. They actually enjoy going out into the jungle with people on. They trundle along at a very slow pace, and it's part of their life. They accept it as part of their life, just the same as if they were wandering around the jungle. Now, with an elephant, it requires a lot of exercise. You can't just put an elephant in a place and think that it's going to be healthy. It isn't. And it's been proved now by Smithsonian Institute in the Chiang Mai University and others, where they've done tests on elephants and on their feces and that. And it's worked out now that the elephants that do rides and do involve people in their parks actually are far less stressed, and their hormone balance is far better. And their body is better because they need muscular development for their legs. They need digestion for their walking, which makes their digestion. I don't know if you know anything about elephants, but they have the worst digestive system of any animal on the planet. It's like in one end and out the other. So they need that exercise to do that, and all the other things too. So the main thing is, though, that riding is not bad for elephants, as has been told by a lot of animal activists. It's just not true. We have got the gold certification from Animal Welfare in Elephants, and this is from the company that's known as ACES, Asian Captive Elephant Standards. They came to our park, and over a 2-year period we had to cover 191 criteria. A lot of that was to do with elephants in captivity and activities. Riding is not banned by them. They actually wanted them to be exercised. They want them to be part of. That's part of the training of the elephant, and they look on it as a very crucial part of maintaining and looking after the elephants. And I can give you a copy of all this, by the way. I can give you a copy of the ACES thing, all their criteria and that, which you can look at for yourself. And believe you me, it's a very sore point, and we get a lot of criticism, as you have just brought up, and we can explain it very easily, and we can justify it very easily. However, it's a very emotional issue, and when people get emotional, all logic goes out of the door, and it's very hard. I've had discussions online, on emails and face to face over the 25 years we've been open, with a lot of people who've come to the park who've had that anti-riding thing and that. And a lot of, I tell you, when the Kardashians came to the park, and the last time John Claude came to the park, I told them, don't take a photo on the elephant. You're going to get hit. Don't. Just stand and pat them and that, but don't put it on. You're going to get bullied over it. And the Kardashians did, and they all do. So we try to protect them from the vicious tongues that will attack them as soon as they're seen sitting on an elephant, because we know it's going to happen, because this emotion runs very, very deep with a lot of people. And I've got one woman who's put together a 50,000 person petition against the park for riding elephants. However, you've got to remember the balance is that the elephants gain out of this. It's like they're working for their living. Yeah? They're not just standing around doing nothing. They're actually working for their living. There is nothing that's hurting them. There's nothing that's going to damage them. They're not being treated cruelly. They weren't trained cruelly to ride. So there is no negative to it. There's only positive, because it's the one thing in the park that brings in that little bit of extra money that helps the elephants to survive. And without that, we wouldn't have been able to keep the elephants alive for the last 2 years. Yeah, that would have been very negative for us as well, financially.
Yeah. Also, another big misconception is the weight on an elephant's spine. Like, we don't put any pressure on an elephant's weight. The seat's weight is distributed evenly across its back on both sides of its spine, so that's a non-factor. Like you said, we had numerous elephant experts from all around the world come and assess our elephants over the years, including this one scientist from Monash University, and she even found out that our elephants had the healthiest feet she'd ever come across out of any elephants that she's ever seen in captivity, because of the specially designed footpaths that we make, which is mimicking hard-packed soil. So they walk on these almost every day, well, pretty much every day. No, they don't walk on concrete. And I don't know, what we've been doing just seems to work. Most elephants in captivity only live about 50% of their normal lifespan, whereas with us, we've got elephants that are almost 60 years old now. They're still healthy. One of our oldest, Eva, just had a baby, and she's about 58 years old, which is unheard of. No. She's like 58, yeah. And, we're not forcing them to do these things. We're not forcing them. We're letting them breed together and like hang out together and also interact with people. And I think this is also the other misconception with animal parks and places. With a world that's changing like ours right now, and we're forever encroaching, we need more ways than just saying, oh, just put them back in the wild, have them be like natural. Like it's not the world anymore. We're here everywhere. The human race is everywhere. We've got to learn to coexist with the animals and think of new ways instead of just say, don't do that. That's not what nature intended. Well, have we left the world in its natural state? I don't think so.
Can I just say one more thing there too, is that when we brought the elephants to Bali, it suddenly made people aware that the elephants existed in Indonesia. Up until when we put the park, that's why we decided to do it in Bali, because nobody even knew there was. I personally had lived in Indonesia for 15 years, and I had no idea that there was a Sumatran elephant, yet alone a separate species of elephant. So since we brought them to here, we've brought a lot of attention that they would never ever have got before. We've had experts, people like Steve Irwin, and people that. And many scientists and animal experts come to our park to see and learn about the elephants, because we're pretty much expert on it ourselves by now. So that's been a very, very positive thing for the Sumatran elephant particularly.
Anyone that works with elephants is like really admire the work that we've done with them.
But back to my dad's previous point as well. I believe that the work that we've been putting in actually has been bringing to light the whole situation over in Sumatra as well. We've had numerous people come to our park, learn about the elephants, and then speak to us directly and say, hey, how can we help out them directly over there with their dire situation. So we know that we've had a lot of people contributing and sending money over there to help out the forestry department and have other organizations that we're beginning to set up over there. Unfortunately, a lot of those fell through, or a lot of corruption was involved, so I'm not too sure how that ended up.
For instance, WWF got thrown out of Sumatra by the Indonesian government because they upset too many people with the money. So that's Sumatra for you.
It's a common story that you hear all the time.
It's a minefield. It really is.
Wow. Thank you. Great questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Great question. So if you pass that mic behind you, it's got Guido there.
First of all, thank you very much. I think it's great to be here. Robert, you know me for a little while. It's probably one of the better evenings I've been here. First of all, I have to share with you 3 things. I wanted to visit your place for the last 2 years. I'm not new to the elephant business, but we will discuss that some other time. I have seen a lot of elephant places around in Southeast Asia, Sri Lanka, and so on. But the most important thing, I think what you mentioned about the chocolate, congratulations on the right business. Unfortunately, to go, I brought a friend of mine over here. He's actually Swiss. We do understand Swiss chocolates, but personally, if you ask me, you got better chocolate here.
Our chocolate leaves the Swiss for dead.
No. I'm giving you my positive input. The coffee here is fantastic, and I think the chocolate business has huge potential.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think if you work on it in a new way, And it's just a matter how you look at the marketing. And since you mentioned you bringing some machineries in and what have you, I wouldn't mind to have the opportunity with my friend in the coming weeks and months to visit, and maybe we can explore this from different angles. But I think it's you're on the right track. And I wouldn't worry so much about the elephant at this point of time, because the political climate on this world is so much full of shit. So just hang in there, okay?
That's all we're trying to do at the moment, just hang in.
The things will get better, but give it time. We're in the early days, but we're coming out of it, and it's going to change drastically. Most people can't comprehend, okay? We're in a big change, and I don't think most of those governments who are in it at the moment will be there in a few years' time.
Good to hear.
Thank you, Guido. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you as well. So, look, this is... Yeah, I'll absolutely connect you. Yeah, all good, man. All good. So, is there any more questions, firstly? Do you have a question, my darling?
I have so many, but I...
Come on, don't do that. Come on. We're all here for a reason, right? There's no coincidences here. Maybe come a bit closer. Thank you.
Yeah.
So please, your question has value. Yeah?
Okay, now I have to decide which one. It's been great meeting you guys, and I really appreciate you sharing your story and so openly, and definitely want to speak to you after about ways I can help out. But I'm just curious, so when you started, you heard about these elephants. How did you know how to care for elephants? Like, how do you become elephant experts, and what organizations do you work with?
I'll let you take it after me.
Yeah.
But just growing up in our family, we've always been around animals. Back in Yanie's restaurant in Kuta, we always had birds around. We had like an owl flying around. Our parents have always had us around animals, all different kinds of creatures. And I think, and you are also, like you always told me, from when you were a boy, you're always looking after sick animals, and just growing up, and we've just always been around animals. And I guess it can kind of, it's the love that you have for animals can equate to that with the elephants as well. Plus, you've also got like a huge love for gardening, both of you two. That's your passion together. And it was just such a labor of love. We were so young, we didn't even realize it, but like looking back, you guys just built it with passion. You wanted to make a beautiful space where humans and elephants could interact together safely. And yeah, I don't know. You guys just pieced that in.
The question was, how did we know what to do, right? Basically. Well, we didn't. We hadn't got a clue. As I said, I almost didn't even know the elephant existed in Indonesia. So we had a little bit of help. One of the head mahouts, of course, with the elephants came some mahouts, which are the trainers or the riders. And the head mahout was very, very knowledgeable about elephants. He was from Sumatra. He's still with us, still with our company, although I think he's going to be retiring very soon. And we learned from him. I also went out and bought every single book I could find on elephants. I went into the internet and through my family, and because I'm not a very internet guy, and we found everything we could. We started to interact with other elephant places around the world to ask advice. For instance, when we want to start breeding, what was needed, how do we do it, etc., etc., etc. So we learned. As we went along, we learned. I mean, for the first 5 years, we were literally shooting blind. We were struggling to understand all sorts of things about the elephants, and probably that's why they didn't breed for the first 10 years. They knew we were idiots and didn't know what we were doing, and they were waiting for us to learn how to look after them properly.
We taught the vet.
Yeah, our vet. We had to teach our vet. That's a fact. He was a horse vet, and he's been with us for 25 years. Now his son's taken over, but he'd never seen an elephant either. So we had to literally teach the vet how to treat our elephants, and from books, literally. So that's how we did it. It was a real a struggle to get that knowledge together. We also were lucky to have some interesting visitors. Steve Irwin was a very close friend of mine. What's the English guy? Yeah, Mark Shand, the elephant man from England, he's dead now, unfortunately. He was the brother of Camilla Parker Jones, who married Prince Charles. So he was a good friend, and he knew a lot about elephants. So we just learned. We made it our mission to learn as much as we possibly could, and that's why we know more about elephants than probably many people do, especially Sumatran elephants, and that's why it's sort of upsetting sometimes to have people fire guns at us and say, oh, you're treating them badly, oh, you shouldn't be riding, you shouldn't be doing this and that. What people don't understand is there's a compromise happens here. We have to learn how to compromise. Elephants in captivity are looked after in a very different way to what they are in the world. An elephant naturally will walk 20 or 30 kilometres in the wild to find food every day. We feed them food, they won't walk anywhere. They'll stand in one position all day long and won't even move. They won't walk more than 3 metres, just as long as there's food there. So we have to force them to walk to make sure they do get that elephant. So there's a lot we had to learn, but it was an interesting journey, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I love seeing the strong family bonds that you guys have, but I think the other thing that I really respect is that you're really looking out for the well-being of the elephants, and that's really clear, not just helping them survive, but really live fulfilling lives and thrive, and taking into account, like the shoes you were just talking about. I didn't know about all those details, and it just really tells me a lot about you guys as people, and appreciate what you're doing. If
you want to know more, the best thing is to look at some of the films we put together. We've got go to our website, and there are a couple of films. There's a film there called Operation Jumbo, which is the movie of the rescue of the last 10 elephants that we brought down to Bali. It's very, very fascinating, great little bit of a tear-jerker, but very, very interesting movie. And we also, my sons here, put together a wonderful movie that we're planning to show in the Park Theatre once we reopen fully again. That explains everything you've asked. Every question, it answers all those questions very realistically and logically. So go into those and have a look at them and listen to that, because it tells you all those things, that the question. Because what we want to do when people come to the park is we want to answer all those questions for them. We don't want them to come. We're not going to lie. We're not going to try to hedge around and don't. There's nowhere in our park that's hidden. There is no illegal sort of dungeon that we put them in to train them or anything. You can walk around the park. If you stay at the park for a couple of days, you can see every single thing there that you want to see. There is no restricted area. So we don't try and hide anything. We want you to know why we do it, how we do it, how we train them, what the seat is, and you can pick up the seat yourself in your hand and feel how heavy it is. You can see them putting the seats on the elephant and all the padding and all that. You can see all that. It's all there to be, very open and very transparent. Yeah.
Great questions. And look, Lord knows how long we've gone today. It's funny because earlier on, so I think someone mentioned, so how long do we go? I'm saying we go as long as it takes, usually an hour or so. And I knew tonight was going to be longer than an hour, but I didn't want to tell you that. It was like, what? If I would have told you it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours, said, no way. But here's the thing, I've been captivated by asking the questions and hearing your responses. I know that people watching would have got whatever they would have got. I'm pretty sure, I feel there's certain things that I think people definitely got. They got the family, they got why you do what you do. One thing here about you rescuing animals from when you're a very young kid, I think is something that was missed. And I'm glad that it came out with one of the questions that you asked, because I think that puts it right there. You know what I mean?
I went to boarding school also, but I went in Reigate in Surrey, in England. And boarding schools back in the 50s, when I was a kid, were a lot different to the boarding schools now. I can tell you they were pretty rough and ready, because everybody who was a teacher was an ex-army officer. So you had the major, the colonel, sergeant so-and-so, and these were all teachers. They knew nothing about teaching. They all knew how to look after men. So it was a pretty tough thing. But my weakness was always animals. And I was always the guy who'd find the stray cat that came into the school grounds and sort of take it to my room and put it in the bed with me. A little bird that would fall out of a nest, I'd always be the one who'd find it and look after it and hand feed it and everything. So I've always had a passion for animals and anything to do with nature. And as you say, when you come to the park and you look at the park, you have to say to yourself, what did this look like before? And you can see the photos. It was completely bare, nothing. It was a dried out rice paddy with not one single tree. So every tree, all the gardens, everything you see in the park was all planted by us in the last 25 years. And that in itself was an enormous challenge and quite expensive as well. We probably spent over the years well over $1.5 million on our gardens there alone. So, we wanted to make it as beautiful as it could for the people and for the elephants, because by doing this, putting all these trees in at the park, we brought the temperature right down. It's now a lot of shade, much cooler than it was before, and it's up in the country. People say to me, what the hell did you build it there for, Nigel? Why didn't you put it down where all the tourists are? Of course, that would have made sense. If you go down to Taman Safari, you'll see exactly that. They're right on the coast. But have a look at their elephants. Very unhappy, very skinny, not happy elephants, because they're in the wrong climate. These are jungle animals. They don't want to be where salt air is blowing on them in the hot sun. They need trees, they need shade, and they need a cooler temperature. How often does it rain down here? Not as often as it rains where we are. In Tarriah rains now, it rains every night almost. That's what elephants love. Elephants don't want to be hidden inside buildings. They want to be out in the rain. When the rain comes, they get excited. They love it. And I've had government people up there telling me, you've got to build a concrete mushroom in the middle of where all the elephants are so they can get out of the sun. No, you don't. You build trees. You put trees in. Natural, filtered sun, in nature itself. And that's what we've done. That's why the park is such a beautiful place to visit, not just because of the elephants, but because of the environment. The park is like a little botanical garden. It's well worth visiting, even if you close your eyes and don't look at the elephants.
Have you been to the park?
I'd second that, actually. I'd second that. And look, so I think, this feels like a good place, because we could talk forever, especially you, mate. Shahid. But you know what? I get it, man. Like, you spent your entire life like this. So
I was attracted to him. A few years after we met, he was asking me, why are you interested or attracted to me? And then I said, you really want to know the truth? And I said, you're a good talker. What? Never anybody told him that before. Yeah, because in the village or at uni, I was always given the opportunity to be in front of the class, in front of us as an MC in the village. When the governor, the Bupati comes, they always appointed. And then I always wish I could talk better in public, And then when I met him, I was like,
big mouth. That's a true story, believe it or not.
So look, what we're going to do, right? The way we're going to tie this all together. So each of you, and we'll go in reverse order, and I'll give you a good 30 seconds to think, right? No, I think you got the answer already. Don't worry, this one's easy. You'll love this one. You will love this one, Yanie, and the boys can help you too if you want. No, this one you'll know the answer. So the question is this, and it's however you want to take it, right? What kind of future would you like to see? What kind of future would you like to see? Well, this is it. I'm not going to herd you in any corner. It's what it means to you. Whether it's about this or that, I don't want to direct you. Now, you got 30 seconds, and we go in reverse order. About 30 seconds before, so you got 30 seconds to think. You've got a minute. You got 2 minutes to think. You're fine. So everybody, cameras over here. So thank you so much for watching this. So Remember that this is Speak Up Monday. We're here every Monday here at Tropical Nomad. 6:30 we go live. So come earlier, come at 6, come and join us. Slowly but surely we'll build the numbers up for those who can watch it live. But the live experience is great. You get to ask questions and connect with each other afterwards, which is where the goal always is. So just check us out. Speak Up, one word, Monday. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You will find the last 110 episodes. So feel free to check out that YouTube library. The playlist is Speak Up Monday. And Speak Up Monday also is how you can trace it on YouTube. And just remember, we will give again the GoFundMe page for the Masons and to save the elephants. Remember that that GoFundMe page is specifically for the elephants only. It goes nowhere else. Legal entities set up to do that. They play no part in the running of that, right? So it will get to its intended location without any worry or cause for concern. Remember that you can obviously go and visit the park, which is in Taro, Taro. So Taro, just up there in the Ubud kind of hills, nestled up there.
20 minutes above.
20 minutes above Ubud, I guess they used to saying that. So 20 minutes above Ubud. I've been there with our kids who are 5 and 7. They absolutely loved it. And we got lost a couple of times. Good Lord help us, right? So these guys are going to go. They're going to send you a bus soon to come and collect you. So keep this stuff in mind. And as I mentioned, I will ask Nigel to mention the website so you know exactly where to go. I think it's Save the Elephants.
SaveBaliElephants.org. We can get a lot of information on this. And also there's the GoFundMe. It's for 30 endangered Sumatran elephants.
And our website?
Yeah, that's our website. SaveBaliElephants.org.
Cool. So SaveBaliElephants.org. So SaveBaliElephants.org. Now we're going to go over to the guys. So the question was, right, what kind of future would you like to see? And we'll go in reverse order, and we'll finish up with Nigel.
I'm going to go the cliche way, but
okay.
I mean, as any other young person can agree, we just want to live in a world that's going to be around for our future, for our kids, for our grandkids. What I would like to see, I guess, handled differently to what has been happening a lot of the time, and from what we're shown, is just a more pragmatic approach towards the whole thing. Something that strikes that sense of compromise, that sense of realism, because life isn't a fairy tale. So you gotta bite down the bullet and figure it out the proper way, even if it's not the easy way or the nice way.
I just want a world where people are free to say and think and feel the way they want without fear of repercussions or judgment. I feel like the world is going in that direction a little bit too much these days, and you have to tiptoe on eggshells. I just want the world to just have the freedom like how we used to have, or how you guys used to have, just without being scrutinized every little thing that you do. Yeah.
Got it, brother. Thank you.
I don't know what to say about this one. Okay, I wish the future, the people can get along better, not making big deal over little things. Yeah, I look at my family in Legian. We come from 10 siblings. We always get along. We meet each other like 2-3 times a week. It's just like amazing. And that's why I can't understand. I see the Western families like shattered. They're not talking. They're bitching one another, not talking to the father, mother. I watch movies and so many times like, what's going on? What do you need in life? Life isn't meant to be difficult if you just get along to one another, accept the differences, accept, you are better or you not as good as this one. We are different. That's all.
Well said, Yanie. And I'd go along with that 100%. You know, we live in a world now where everybody criticises everybody. You know, there's always opinions, and opinions are good. They're needed. We need people to ask questions. We need people to criticise, but it's got to be realistic. It can't be just criticism for criticism's sake. If you want to criticise, by all means, but think first before you accuse people, and learn as much as you can before you speak, because then you don't make a fool of yourself, and you'll get a far better answer when you ask the question. You know, through my life, especially since I came to Bali, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of things. And when I got involved with elephants, I didn't realise I was going to make myself wide open to animal activists, and it's hurtful, as I said before. So I'd like to see a world where people ask questions more, rather than just speaking for the sake of it. Ask people, you know, why this happens, and be prepared to listen to the answer to the question, rather than just not be prepared to listen, because that's what happens. I've had people, you know, I've sent them a 7-page fax before, you know, phones, telling them all the things, all the questions they criticise, and they've sent me a one-line answer saying, "I don't believe that, you're a liar." Where do you go from there? How is there a conversation after that? It's finished. The conversation's over. So, you know, I always take the trouble to give people the true answer and to explain why we do things. And I just hope for the future that people become a little bit more tolerant of each other. They begin to, you know, realise that they don't have the answers to everything. Neither do I. None of us have all the answers, but we've just got to be prepared to listen sometimes, and try and, you know, give people a little bit of respect for trying. Because if you haven't done anything, if you've never achieved anything, and this is what a lot of the emails we get from people who are just, you know, keyboard warriors. They sit behind their desk in their bedroom or in their lounge or whatever, and they send these things out without really considering, you know, what they're saying. And when they get the answer that they don't like, then they become abusive. This is very common. So let's hope that the world, after this 2 years of COVID, or might be 3 years, who knows at this stage, but let's hope we've all learned a lesson to be more tolerant of each other, that we've learned to, you know, to be fair human beings, not abusive human beings who just, you know, just want to put people down. Because there are so many people out there doing good things, you know. We have to admire that they try. They're not perfect, none of us are. We all just try. So just appreciate that there are people who are out there doing things, and there's so bloody many of them, and they're amazing. I meet many of them in my life. I'm so lucky that I get all sorts of people come to the park, and I always take the trouble to talk to as many as I can and learn about them and build relationships with them. And I've got a lot of, you know, VIP people that still contact me. I get messages on Christmas Day and things like that, and it's really heartfelt. I love that, which means we touched hearts somewhere. We actually made a contact, and that's great. Yeah.
You know, I got my own. You know, so this interview started off with just Nigel, right? We put on a mutual friend, Mike, you know, and obviously the other one, name's John and Mike. Back in America. So, but it was one person who was supposed to be. But then when I sat down with all four of you around your dining table, I knew already that we had to have four of you, right? And I'm so glad that we did, right? For all the reasons I've given before. Bineka Tunggal Ika, right? People inspire people is what this is all based upon. So the final question that I'm going to give just to you, Brother Nigel, is, you know, like, so what future do you want to see for Bali, for Mason?
My
elephant?
My Bali, how I feel?
Yeah.
Look, I think that's a very simple question. I would like to see Bali go into the future retaining all that it is and all that it's ever been before, because it's dramatic and wonderful and beautiful. I'd like to see it go ahead with that, but I'd like to see people come back to Bali with a new attitude, not to expect some sort of shopfront Bali, but the real Bali, the heart of Bali. So many people come here and they spend their whole time in a hotel, they're around the swimming pool, they go to restaurants, they go to discos and clubs and things. They're missing this beautiful heart of Bali, which is right out there. And when you're up in the country in Ubud, and you live up there, I know, and so many people do, you'd feel that. Unfortunately, over the years, we've had an exodus of many of the early people who came to Bali, who came either around the same time that I came or before, and in the 70s maybe, or even in the 60s. A lot of those people have now died. One of those very good people died today, a good friend of ours. He was 80. And with the passing of those people, I hope we're not seeing the passing of the people who came because of Bali, not just because it was a holiday resort. Yeah, I really believe that Bali's got so much to offer, and we need to appreciate that for what it is. And I don't want to take it away from the Balinese, the culture and the colour and the all the beautiful things that we see in Bali. It's got to remain, and people have got to come here. I hope the new people come here with the spirit of that. I mean, it's a very modern world now, and all this stuff you've been talking about, and we were talking about earlier on the internet, and that it confuses me and puzzles me, I must say. It's not my generation. I'm sort of haven't got into it. I don't even use a computer, believe it or not. And I still hand write. I'm writing my book at the moment. I'm doing it all by hand. So I'm very, very old-fashioned, and I haven't really joined the 21st century yet, probably. And I look on that as actually an attribute, because I don't want to be confused. I like to keep my head clear and know what I came here for in the first place. And that was for Bali, and of course for the love of my wife. But that's what I hope for the future. I hope Bali retains all of that, and that people come here not wanting to change or spoil that. Yeah, because it's unique and it's irreplaceable.
Round of applause, guys. Thank you so much. Woo.